beginner kind of thing to make. It's hard to make in a way, but if you understand it, if making tempura at home is really cool. I think it's fun if you have friends over. You know, so I like to make tempura. Sometimes it comes out, sometimes not so well. You know, with practice, like anything else, you start to get an idea of what is tempura and how it works, and what do you think about when you think about the tempura. So Abe-san is now going to talk to us about tempura.
Yeah, tempura. First make tempura sauce.
Okay. Okay, so this is a dipping sauce for tempura. Do we have that in here? Yes.
Dashi 400.
400.
The soy sauce 100. Mirin.
So you're going to bring that up to a boil, right?
Yeah, just boil.
Just a boil. So with this, you combine the 1 mirin, 1 soy sauce, 4 dashi, 411. Bring it up to a boil. And so you're going to cook out the alcohol in the mirin. The mirin has alcohol, and you're going to let the by just bring it to a boil, the flavors combine. Okay.
Yes. The next make tempura butter.
Right. So first of all, tempura is, as we know, ingredients coated in a batter and quickly deep fried. It was introduced by the Portuguese originally. Tempura, I think, comes from Portuguese into Japan 400 years ago. So obviously, show us how you're going to make the tempura batter, then I'll commentary.
Yeah, 200 water, egg. この卵は衣がチックするハードに。
So this egg makes the butter.
天ぷらの周り衣をハードにやるやつ。
That it makes it harder.
To give you that crunch. So that's step one. You're mixing an egg and a lot of water. And now comes really an important step, and we're going to talk about it. Son puts in the flour that he measured. And the proportions are kind of important here. So you're using 150 grams of flour. And as I've said before in other class, I really recommend that you guys get a kitchen scale. They're, digital kitchen scale is $20 and it's a great way to cook.
This first make a shrimp.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. Okay. So we are going to go back to the tempura batter, and the reason Abe-san stopped is because you want to make tempura batter a la minute, like you want to make it just at the time you're going to use it. And we'll talk about tempura batter in a second. So let's get back to the second. Abe did not compare it, like he wants to prep the shrimp and show you how you do that. Then we'll come back to tempura batter.
Yeah. Today is a blue shrimp.
Nice shrimp. You can get really nice shrimp at lots of places. Thank you, another $5 for that. Okay.
Take a head.
Head goes.
Yeah,
delicious. Right. Don't throw the head. Okay. Abe-san is going to peel it, but not the tail.
You're going to peel the head.
It's delicious. Yeah.
This first open the back side.
So you just make a slit. Yes, exactly right. So you make a slit with the back, and you are so to prepare a big shrimp. Cut the head off, peel, but don't peel off the tail, and then you make a slit in the back, and then you use that, and then you kind of push out the. It's essentially the innards of a shrimp. This there's a word in English we use for this. I can't remember. The vein, but it's it's a vein, but it's actually the intestinal tract and all that stuff. But we call it like deveining the shrimp. So yes, okay. Now Abe-san's deveined the shrimp. He flips it on its back, and he's putting notches. Okay, this is actually a really important point. So you can see in these shrimp they have the lines, right? So just at that point, don't cut all the way through, but just notch. So you cut the vein out from the back, flip it over, lay it on, on its back, and cut notches in it. Now you'll see what Abe-san's doing. Abe-san, can you stretch it out? Like show it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
So I'll let Abe-san finish the move, and then I'll show you what he's doing. Okay. So once right. And what Abe-san is doing is, so once he's made those notches, he's kind of pinching them, and the whole thing, Abe-san, is that this will fry very straight and long, and it won't curl up and fry evenly. So that's what you do. The difference between tempura and bread, and this is something to think about. What happens with bread, right? You use flour, and then you knead the flour, right? And once it rises and everything happens, because what you're trying to do, flour have glutens, and what you're trying to do with bread is stretch those glutens out, so like the bread is like nice and chewy and bready. With tempura, you're doing the opposite. You're using flour, but you want to do as little stretching of the gluten as possible, because in tempura you want a crispiness to the tempura, and that's what you're looking for. And you'll see now. Abe-san's going to talk about putting the flour into the egg mixture, and the whole purpose of what Abe-san's doing with the flour is not to make it glutinous. Okay. Ooh, nice. Okay, he's using fluke also. So he's just using fluke fillet. You can use flounder fillet also, make really beautiful tempura. Or just kind of like, Abe-san, a nice white fish also works really nice with tempura. Okay, all right, let's go back to flour. Now this is the most critical part of, before you do this, Abe-san, explain what you're trying to do. Maybe just talk a little bit about what the goal is here. Because this is it. This is what tempura is all about. We got to get this part right to make tempura.
Lots of people use the chopsticks, but it's better to use the hands so you can actually feel. You can't mix it too much, because that creates the gluten.
So what Abe-san, you're going to watch Abe-san doing now. He's adding this watery egg mixture, and he is just with 2 fingers, just gently mixing it through. And there are even clumps of flour. Small clumps are okay. If you mix it too much, it's bread. Then these glutens form, and then you can taste it. You're like, oh, this is really like, these are like breaded shrimp, okay? But you want tempura. So what Abe-san is doing is just combining everything, not mixing too much, very gently. So he's doing it with his fingers, and if you look at this, there are little clumps of flour, and that's fine. You don't want huge clumps, but little, and this is the key move with tempura. And it takes a little practice. Try, you'll do it a few times, you're like, okay, now I get it, because it's really crunchy. The first time I made tempura, I'm like, what did I make? But you start to get it, okay? All right. So now the tempura batter is made, and sometimes, like for batches, like if you see in a restaurant, they'll put cubes of ice in there. You want to just, you want cold water, you want like just the flour, like cold water. You want to do this like with cold water and the egg right at that moment. If it's got to wait a little bit, you can actually drop some ice cubes in there to keep it cold. This is all so the batter creates a very crispy coating, not a bready one. Now, Abe-san is taking flour and he's just coating the shrimp in the flour. Okay, and then explain why. And here. So yes, so that's what Abe-san's explaining, is that the flour, the batter adheres to the flour. So that helps it, okay? And then Abe-san, how do you know when the oil is hot enough?
Yes, this now.
Okay.
Because
yes, come look. Check out what Abe-san's doing. Right, exactly. So Abe-san is putting a couple of drops of tempura batter, it goes to the bottom and comes back up. Then it's ready.
300.
About 300. What is it in Celsius? 180 or
180.
180.